I find in general Korean people know nothing about Koryo Saram. And it's not a bad thing, but let's just start with this. I remember telling my brother-in-law, who's a nice guy, like in Korean over dinner, I'm going to be speaking to some Koryo Sarams next week on my podcast. And he looked at me and he went, Koryo shide. which is like 900 AD things. He had no idea what we're talking about. So maybe Yeonhwa, let's start with this idea of Koryo Saram. Like, who are you, Yeonhwa? What are we doing here?
I'm an ethnic Korean. My dad is from Uzbekistan, my mom is from Russia, but they're Korean speaking Russian. So yeah.
And you're ethnically Korean?
Yes, ethnically I'm Korean.
Yeah.
But I can speak Russian and it's my mother tongue.
Say something in Russian for us, Yeonhwa.
Здравствуйте, меня зовут Йона.
And in Korean?
안녕하세요, 제 이름은 박연화입니다.
It's amazing because you got these three languages going on, right?
Yeah.
We'll come back to your identity because you made this brilliant video that I showed. Daniil?
Yeah, hello everyone. Thanks for inviting me here. And my name is Daniil. I'm 19. I'm currently a student of Hanyang University. It's a pleasure to be here. And yeah, I'm also part of Koryo Saram and I'm ethnic Korean. Yeah. And actually, this podcast is a very big opportunity for me to speak up about my diaspora because I noticed that as more as I live here, people got no idea what is Koryo Saram about. And yeah.
Excellent. Yunseo?
Hi, my name is Yunseo and I'm from Seoul Women's University. I'm 19 years old and I'm Korean, but I'm here to talk about how Koreans think about Koryo Saram and how do Koreans think about them, those kind of things. Yeah, I'm here to talk about that. And it's a great pleasure to have you guys here and thank you for inviting me. Thank you.
Same.
This is the first time you've met a Koryo Saram.
Yeah.
We were checking that 단톡방 in our group chat. You was like, I've never met one.
Yeah.
The first time we did this, one of the reasons I decided to do this is because, let's start with this, Yeonhwa, you made this video project. So you're all my students this semester at two different universities in different classes. Yunseo is taking 3 classes with me this semester. Crazy woman. Yeonhwa, you did this video where you were asking this question, who am I? Can you tell us a little bit about your video? Because we've all seen it.
I was thinking very long time, what should I show, what should I film? And I was answering, I was curious, what should I show to professor, to students? And professor really helped me, and he told me that I should show me and my perspective. And I decided to answer my question, which was bothering me for a long time. It was a question about self-identification and not about the psychology side, but also in ethnic. So I was very curious about where is my homeland, which ethnicity is closer to me, and all these questions was connected with who am I. So I decided to make this video.
Who are you? Did you get to the bottom of any of these questions? I mean, because I guess when Yunseo introduced herself, she said, I'm Korean. And maybe we'll come to that later. And I kind of know who I am, but it's different for you though, isn't it, I think?
Yeah, it's very difficult to answer now too. And after making a video, I felt like I became more curious and more questions I have now.
Yeah, actually I can relate to it as my topic of the video is kind of the same about Koryo Saram. And the main purpose of my video was actually to genuinely answer my question. The question is, do I really have a hometown? Because I don't feel 100% native in Korea because maybe I'm not fluent in terms of Korean yet, but overall my mentality is different. And same for Russia, even though I feel more comfortable in Russia, it's still you will never feel fully Russian because people will never treat you the same because of appearance. And that's why I really can understand what the video was about. And there was a lot of similarities, actually. Just the different opinions of other people, of the guests of my interview. Might be their perception of their life in Korea would be different, but overall experience in terms of relationship with other people here is kind of the same. Yeah.
What's it like? This is a weird question. What's it like to feel not at home in this culture, not at home in that's a
Damn.
because I don't know how you can put words on that, but I get a bit of it. But I guess I always know where my home is, even if I don't live there.
I would say it's not that bad, as both countries, like Russia and Korea, it's a good choice for me to live in. And I've got friends either in Russia and like in Korea. So I don't really have this everyday problems. But I would say just when you think about it overall, that you as a citizen, you don't have really belonging towards anything. And it's sometimes kind of gets you, right? So when you feel down or something, it is something that you ask yourself quite a lot during these times. And maybe it's like a problem which not only Koryo Saram actually, but people from different ethnic groups can relate to.
Yeah.
Like in the whole world, there are a lot of ethnic groups that people don't know much about. And the same issues works for them in both of the countries. So, yeah.
My kids are going to go through it.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's one of the
Maybe.
reasons why I'm talking to you and listening to you and find out, because my kids will probably have the same or similar identity problems growing up. Yunseo, any like this kind of, we're just stepping into this topic of Koryo Saram, but I think it's really cool that you're here because it's not very well known in Korea, I guess, is it?
Yeah. So like before coming to here, I asked like few of my friends about Koryo Saram, and they did know about Koryo Saram, but they've never seen them like in person, like me. Yeah. Like. And
What do they look like in person? Were they what you expect? It's a weird question.
no,
but
like I don't want to be racist, and I
Yeah.
don't like expect like very different things from Koryo Saram, but but like for example, we see lots of Joseonjok in our society, but
What's
I don't-
Joseonjok to you? Like people might not know what Joseonjok is.
yeah, they are like ethnic Chinese, ethnic. Like they were part of the Korean people, but they moved to China like very long years ago.
Oh, yeah.
So yeah, they are currently living in China or they moved to Korea. But one of my friends said that she feels like more closer to Koryo Saram even if she did not like see many of the Koryo Saram before, like more than a Joseonjok. Yeah.
There's a bit of Korea-China thing that goes
Yeah.
on in society.
maybe.
There is, isn't
Huge
there?
topic, actually.
Yeah. They always argue about who's got the best food in class and things. Yes. But your friends have heard of Koryo Saram,
Yeah.
just not met them.
Did they say anything about Koryo Saram, like any facts they know?
Like I asked like 4 of them and all of the 4 said the same thing. Oh, I saw them on YouTube, like not on the real
Oh, yeah.
like daily lives. And they thought that it was surprising to see someone does not really look like Korean or someone look like Korean is like fluent in Korean or like Russian. Yeah. They were very surprised to know that because like in Korea you cannot see many people with like Western
Yeah.
features and like speaking Korean like
Yeah.
very much, right?
Yeah.
So yeah, they were like surprised to know that.
I would say generally it's like very weird experience because the first time I came in Korea was like 2019, and people would approach me, and by that time I didn't know Korean at all. I was like, "안녕하세요," and that's it. And they would like start thinking that I'm good at Korean, but then they would start speaking something, and I would just 죄송합니다. 한국어를 잘 못해요. And I see them started like being kind of me being understood because they either thought that I'm Japanese either or something wrong about me. And by that time, when you don't know Korean at all, like you just don't really know how to explain it because a lot of people don't know English at all here.
Right.
And it's another problem, like Koreans, like for us, I noticed that many Russian Korean people and generally Koryo Saram, they study English in school very hardly. And that's why we kind of know at least basics and we can express our thoughts. But like in Korea, sometimes only younger generation would understand what we are saying. And for example, with some kind of ajumma would ask me something, I was like, like just I would only use translator. That was like my only option. And yeah, like first time, like it was very hard. because of the language barrier first. So yeah. But
And I think people give, depending on your appearance, for example, you've spent like the last hour with me and I've been speaking to car park attendants and people in society and you're looking at me like, Professor, your Korean's all right. But even if I make mistakes, people say it's good. But sometimes based on your appearance, that if you, like, even if you make a small mistake, they'll be like, I get you. Yonha, how does like appearance or language work for you?
Even I was born here, I experienced like real Korean society in my elementary school. So I went to Korean school for only 2 months because there were two like high expectations of my language skills. And when they like noticed that I'm not perfect in language, there was like disappointed about me. And there was like kind of pressure a little bit. So I went to Russian school again and I felt that I'm still foreigner here, not a Korean. So I think there are a lot of like high expectation of like appearance. So you look like Korean, so you have to be like Korean. Like,
Does when you speak English, you have a Russian accent. It's very like, it's good. Everybody has an accent, and when Spanish people speak English, they have a Spanish accent. It's perfectly normal. When you speak Korean, do you have an accent? I'm not sure.
Yes, I have. Like it's like Korean accent. I think it's it's.
to be honest, what I heard so far from you, I wouldn't really see a difference. Maybe I'm not fluent and I'm not really a professional in terms of Korean, but so far I didn't really see any differences. What about do you?
Yeah,
have
like
you
as a
ever,
Korean, like I
Yeah.
felt like she's like super Korean sounding Korean. Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah,
She
maybe
didn't say anything about your stuff.
maybe that's because you were born here. So as you were a kid, you were kind of getting used to it from the beginning. But as for me, I noticed like I had to spend some time for genuinely understand the way Korean sounds naturally. And I would be like, 안녕하세요. And people, and even like when I was pronouncing single words, people would have no idea what I'm saying. And that's when I knew like there is some issues about my language process and stuff.
Yeah.
And that's probably the reason because I only started learning Korean in 2019. And that was rough because Russian is completely different. And my entire life I've been studying English and I got used to this kind of Western type of language.
Yeah.
But Korean is Asian type of language and it's completely different. The grammar is different, the vocabulary. So I had to adjust once again myself to it. And maybe it's like works also for Koreans. For them, it's hard to study English, and that's why I understand why English maybe in certain areas is not that developed yet.
Right.
Yeah. But can you explain like maybe what was your English learning experience? How did you get
Oh
fluent?
yeah, like for me, I took a like very typical type of like English education of Koreans. Like at first, in like kindergarten, you like learn like small vocabulary, like where are you from? Oh, I'm from Korea. Hey, nice to meet you. How are you? I'm fine. Those kind of stuff, you know. And like in elementary school, it's like all the same, but you go to like private institute, like called 학원. We go to there from like elementary school. And in there, you can talk to like native English speaker teachers there. So there is the place you get the English speaking, the
Yeah, I
sense.
see.
And in middle school, you slowly begin to lose the like speaking of the English language because you study for the exam. The high school is the same, but yeah. So after coming to the university, it was the like restart for me to learn the English language. So for Korean or for me, the English language does not feel like a language itself. It feels like a subject or a test for me. Yeah, kind of.
Oh. But still, it sounds very fluent. I thought
thank
like
you.
maybe you lived abroad somewhere or something.
I
Because
appreciate
even in terms of accent, it's very.
Oh, thank you.
It's pretty good, isn't it? Like this
Yeah,
is not somebody
like-
that went abroad that's just picked it up. But I think it's important that sometimes if you go up to a Korean and if you say to them, for example, if I said to my brother-in-law, what should we do this weekend in English, he would look at me and go,
Yeah.
뭐라고? He wouldn't know what I'm saying. And there are many, that's not to say that they're unintelligent or things like that, but there's many Koreans that just don't speak English. And so Korean language becomes important, I think,
Yeah.
sometimes. Yeah.
Yeah, and like this is the topic when, as more actually Koryo Saram people come to Korea
Yeah.
due to many reasons, like related, like political reasons and stuff, and that's the thing which everyone has to face with. Like you will never be able to live fully with only English knowledge. Like sooner or later, you gotta start learning Korean. And even my dad, he came to Korea only in October. And he's very fluent in English and stuff, and he didn't really know before coming that English is not an option here. You might like do basic stuff without problems, but as for getting adjusted to Korean environment, you gotta learn it. And even though he's 46, he doesn't know Korean. He just learned Hangul like a month ago. He like bought this courses of Koryo Saram teacher.
Yeah.
Through the Instagram, he studies like basic stuff like nin in real.
Does he look like you, your dad?
Yeah, he's like fully Korean. Obviously, people also like always ask him something in Korean, but he'd be like, he doesn't even say 한국어를 잘 못해요. He'd be like, I don't speak Korean because he doesn't know yet. You see, so.
Can we go back to the start of how? So it's your grandparents' generation. Like, how does the Koryo Saram get made? That's a weird way of saying it, right? But this is your grandparents' generation or your great grandparents' generation leaving Korea. How does that work, Yonha? What's the story? Do you know?
I know that when it was like maybe Japanese war here, some Koreans went to far east of Russia and stayed here, and then Stalin said that they have to go to Central Asia, so Kazakhstan, Uzbekistan, and there were like my grandparents. And it's interesting that even though they lived in like USSR society, they preserve like Korean language, Korean culture, and also I can notice that my grandparents, they use Korean words a lot, so they speak Korean more than Russian, even though they lived there. So I find like some patriotic moments there too.
I've seen the photos of like the food laid out and the handbox, and it's almost exactly the same, but there's these slight differences, which makes it so interesting. What I think is fascinating by this is we often hear about American influence and things like that here, but we're talking about Japanese colonization and then your existence being in a way determined by Stalin and the Soviet Union. And in this part of Korea, that's kind of not talked about as much, right?
Yeah.
Right.
What is interesting is that probably we are North Koreans actually.
Yeah.
Because
It's just for another. Okay.
actually, if even think rationally,
Yeah.
it would make more sense for North Koreans to cross the territory of the Soviet Union by that time, rather than South Koreans to do this whole path, you know. And actually, same works for me. For my great grandparents, I would say it was like 50s, I suppose. They crossed the territory of Soviet Union. There was a lot of departures. It was very harsh and rough. Like my grandma would say that there was no much saved information about my ancestors. Like my great grandparent name was Chansik. I was like, damn. And I'm just Daniil, Russian name. And it's like we also was sent to the Middle Asia of Soviet Union by that time. My entire family spent their time, the majority of their life there. And yeah, so after that, they moved to Russia, and I ended up in Moscow. That's why I'm not familiar with a lot of cultural things of Uzbekistan and Kazakhstan. I would say the biggest countries of Middle Asia in CIS. But still, as a lot of connections from my parents, and I've been there maybe a few times, I feel like I kind of understand their culture through the life of my parents, but not my personal experience. And yeah, I see a lot of Koreans over there still. Koryo Saram.
I've heard from people that lived and worked in Pyongyang, the capital of North Korea, that these are from British people that lived and worked there with the embassy, that
Yeah.
if they walked down the street, sometimes North Koreans would come up to them and speak in Russian.
Yeah.
Because they would expect them to be Russian rather than
Yeah.
American or English speak, not American, but British speaker. They wouldn't expect it to be English. That if you walk down the streets of Pyongyang, people would come up and say, yeah.
Even my grandmother, she came to Korea 2016.
Yeah.
She was speaking North Korean and she wouldn't have idea. And her friend actually, who's like 한국 사람, she would say to her like, "Oh, you're speaking like North Korean accent." And the thing is that she didn't really know this before coming here. And in our family, sometimes we speak some Korean words, pronouncing it, and even I remember some of them, but we never really thought about that it's actually not relevant anymore here in South Korea. Yeah.
Can you give us an example of any of the words?
Let me remember this. Actually, there is a kind of a soup, which is a dog soup.
Yeah, okay.
It was relevant like in the last century in North Korea. So it's called kaja, and I'm pretty sure that the current Korean name for this soup is different because throughout the time it changed a lot, and it's more. It used to be like a North Korean word, and there is a lot of I just don't remember
Like
now.
also like here, people like eat rice and water, so they like say pop
Oh,
and
yeah.
물.
Pop.
But but in like our society, we call it like 파비 물이.
Oh yeah, yeah, that's right. 맞아요.
Like this,
Yeah.
like 파비 물이. Yeah, so there are a lot of words, and also I know because my grandmother was like one of the first Korean teacher in Uzbekistan, and so she taught Korean to ethnic Korean students for the time. And also that's why I have Korean name, because she gives me like Korean name, her Korean name, because she wants me not to like forget that my homeland is Korea. So yeah.
It's weird how politics might get involved in your identity or
Yeah.
things like
Yeah.
this, because I mean, in some parts of the world, politics is always a thing. But if you, I don't know, Yun, so what happens if you start saying like North Korea and Russia and Stalin in South Korea? Is
Very
it just like
sensitive.
how sensitive? What's going on with it? You know?
You know, like politics and news. Even though my major is media and communication thing, we don't really talk about politics like within friends, because like all the people might have like different opinions, and they might have like different maybe thoughts on everything.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I guess that's really important in terms of the current situation. I realized that here in Korea, I never faced this problem because I noticed that for Koreans, they mostly care about three countries, like States, Japan, and North Korea. But as for Russia, they don't really know much. They know like
Right.
basic info. That's why whenever they talk about war, which happened to me very rarely, only like 2 texts asked me about Russian war and Putin, and I was like, okay. I don't really speak about it in terms of my personal opinion because I just realized that maybe it's not gonna be a problem here. As I said before, that Russia isn't that connected to South Korea, but still, as my personal vision of it, I just don't want to bring politics into the table to discussion, because everyone is different, right? So, and even Korean people have different vision, obviously. Us having different visions. Koryo Saram have different visions in our diaspora. Like my old generation, actually having completely different views as their Soviet Union citizens, yeah. And us is like a more Western generation, like a fourth generation of Koryo Saram. And as we grew up in different environment, we don't really think and approach news as they do. So that's why, yeah, and I see a lot of differences, but just generally don't talk about it that much.
It must be so hard if your very identity is political.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean by that?
Yeah,
That who you are becomes political. Are you able to tell the story you told me in the car about why you're here?
Oh, actually, yeah. It was a very hard period of my life. I just entered the university by passing exams, and I spent like 2 weeks in Moscow uni,
Yeah.
and everything was kind of good in terms of the education system and stuff. I truly like that.
Because you feel Russian, yeah?
Yeah.
yeah.
And there was a lot of my friends who I was studying with, but the only issue I faced with was it was September, if I'm not wrong, of the last year. And that was the day when mobilization was called in Russia. So basically, this is when men people have to serve. They have to go to the war. And I remember the day I'm going to uni. I'm in the bus. My dad is texting me, "Yo, Daniel, send me your passport details." And I was like, damn, something is going wrong. And basically, by the evening, I obviously understood what's going on. We talked with my family about this whole situation, and we bought the fastest tickets to Kazakhstan. And actually, we came to the city which borders with Kazakhstan. Spent there 2 days on the border, crossing the border by car. There was a lot of pressure. It was nighttime. We didn't have food, actually. And the real issue is that you understand that you're not alone. I saw a lot of people, and it was like 3 of us, my uncle, dad, and myself. We were like grown people. We can take responsibility for ourselves. But there was a lot of families, and I saw parents struggling as they would... they didn't really have food anymore to feed their kids and stuff. So it was a lot of pressure, and thankfully I passed the border, came to Kazakhstan where the relatives of my father live, so there was no issues anymore. And after that I came to Korea. So yeah, my initial plan was coming to Korea, just as there is no flight, like direct flights to Korea from Russia. I had to go through this crazy journey, and yeah.
But in a sense, you're a political refugee. Almost like it feels like
that's
you're
crazy.
You're because of a war conflict.
For
that
sure.
You have to be here, and you said the men in your family are here.
Yeah, and I would say that
Women are back in.
Yeah, like as everything is okay right now in Korea is very quiet. You always realize that like Korea is not gonna really be in the same similar situation type of, even despite of North Korea case. You just don't really feel that pressure here. I don't really know how to explain it. And maybe I remember those days with a kind of a smile right now, because everything is good right now. And maybe it was like experience from my life also, to cherish the things that I have now. Like here is quiet, stable, just work and everything gonna be great. Yeah, but I guess for Korean people it sounds crazy, like completely crazy, because I really also can't imagine it here.
Does Korea feel safe, Yunseo? Like, I mean, there's North Korea right there, and I know sometimes when you've seen it talking to like foreigners, people coming from Europe or America, that I'm going to Korea. That place is scary.
Yeah, I heard of it. Like some of the international students told me that their parents would not be so happy for them to come to Korea because the Korea would not sound or feel safe to them. But like for Korea, I don't think that war is going to happen soon, or it's like the unstable Korea. I don't think so. But like few months ago, we had like an alarm on the phone. Do you remember that?
Right.
Like
Yeah.
it was about like 5 or 6 in the morning, and the alarm went
That's
off.
crazy.
And that's the only time for like 19 years of my life. That's the only time that I realized that, oh, it was like not the end of the war. We were like resting the war kind of thing. But like that was a single time. Like I feel very safe in here.
That was the day I turned off my notifications for this kind of work, because that's crazy.
They send you so many notifications. We're safe now. The BTS boys are all in the army. We're safe. They're all prison. Although you should have to come and see me in Gangwon-do. Like after this, I'm going to drive right up close to the border. Place called Wonton, and up there you see tanks and you see the soldiers when you get close. But here in Seoul, it's just
Right.
the safety.
Yeah, and even I worked in Paju during the last year, and I remember I was taking the bus every weekend, and I saw this territory of North Korea, but I just couldn't imagine that it's that close. And afterwards, I checked the neighbor map, whether it's right, and I just couldn't believe it because you feel very safe here, considering that there is such an escalated situation which might blow up, but you just never believe in that and realize that it's probably never going to happen, at least in our lives. So, yeah.
What I find is really cool is that Korea gets a lot of stick for not being helpful to refugees. There was the I believe there were Afghanistan people on Jeju and things like that. It gets a lot of criticism for not upholding it. But then there's perhaps lots of stories like yours, Daniel, that we don't know is actually happening, or we don't think about, that Korea is providing a home for some people, that it doesn't.
Korea also, I like participated in a volunteer work, and they give like a lot of rice and other like stuff for Korean from Ukraine who come here. So I recognize that Korea really try to support all like Koryo Saram. And a lot of Koryo Saram comes here because of like situation that happens now.
What's the difference between Koryo Saram, Koryo In? So Saram and In is both the same, right? But is there a preference? I never know which one. And what is the Koryo part? Like, this are all stupid questions, but can we break down this word or how it's used? Or
I think Koryo is actually related to Koryo dynasty in general.
okay,
I'm
which was the northern part of the three kingdoms,
exactly.
right?
That's
You had-
why North Koreans and stuff, I guess that's the reason. And I'm not sure whether it's fully related to Koryo as the dynasty itself, but there are definitely some features of that period.
I know. I'm just going to jump in, but I was reading the Hungarian ambassador's book, and he talks about how in South Korea they elevate the Shilla dynasty, right? It's the one, but in North Korea, in all their history books, it's about Koryo because it's up there.
Yeah.
That's their one. Okay, yeah.
Oh, and actually I wanted to add something about the way Korean people help the other diasporas these days.
Yeah.
And even like coming back to my story, the reason how I like, not the reason, but like I wasn't able to come to Korea just by buying the tickets and stuff. I needed visa. That's the first thing. And I needed some educational place to study. And so eventually, like, fortunately, my grandma has some connections with Korean people who are related to the university I went to. And it's like a Christian university, and my grandma called there. She explained the situation to her close friend, and he did everything for me to come to Korea ASAP. And it was really like life-saving moment for me because I arrived, I got no idea what to do. Like literally Incheon airport, I'm staying. I got no idea what's going to happen in the future. And he texted me like, I'm here. He met me, obviously, drove me to university. And thankfully, it was like the middle of the semester. And the first day I arrived, it was like the first day of midterms of the language course program. And they obviously understood the situation, gave me everything. By that time I had F4 visa, and it helped me to join just by entering the class the next day.
F4 is like the ethnic Korean visa.
Yeah.
How do you prove you're ethnic Korean? You're like, look at my blood. Like, it's a weird question.
Oh, actually, there is a document we
Okay.
got in CIS countries, I suppose, not only in Russia,
Oh.
which says that nationality Korean. That's the only actually provement you got. So I had to use my mom's document, which confirms her relations to her grandma, which says that my grandma is Korean, and that's how. And F4 visa basically represents, as we said before, overseas Korean visa. And it allows us to live here without any issues, actually. We can work, we can do whatever we want. We might be limited in some governmental decisions like political rights, political ability to vote. And
I can vote for everything up to prime minister, but not president. There's like a level. What do you have similar things?
to be honest, I'm not sure
You
about
don't.
it.
Yeah,
As
yeah.
What type of visa do you have?
I think it's an F5.
Oh.
I'm not sure. It's
F5.
a permanent residence.
Yes.
I have permanent residence here,
Yeah.
so I can vote for local elections, but I can't vote for the president. That's the one that's off limits for me.
Yeah, F4 is actually similar to F5.
Okay.
And it's really a blessing for us because I never really faced any issues using this type of visa. And actually, before it was harder to get this, but I guess yes, Korean birth rate is kind of in complicated case right now.
Okay.
No, really, that's
Yeah,
the
yeah,
thing.
yeah, that's
They do
interesting.
everything to actually stimulate like the diasporas of Korean people
Right.
to come back to their country. And that's why, for example, they didn't really give F4 visas to fourth generation of Koryo Saram. They used to give it only till the third generation. And now, thankfully, as I'm fourth generation, and last year I received it without any issues. Yeah.
I never imagined this. So because the Korean birth rate is so low, they're like,
Yeah,
come back
actually,
here.
that's the
The Korean-
Yeah.
Remember your great grandfather's country, your great grandmother's country. Wow.
Also, like there are a lot of social programs to to Koreans. So they want to like develop some cities here in Korea, and they made some social programs to attract people there. So they work there, for example, like maybe 2 years, and they can get like passport, Korean passport, like such programs.
Are you gonna? Do you have a Korean passport?
No, because if I would have, I can't enter to university like a foreigner.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so I have to do it like real Korean.
What's the advantage of doing it like a foreigner? That means no sunung or something?
Yeah, I
You're sort of giving you the side eye now.
Might sound crazy to you.
like I am not able to like pass Suning,
Yeah.
and I just have to pass topic like level test,
It's an English test, right?
Korean like level test.
Oh, topic is Korean. Yeah.
Yeah,
Sorry.
yeah, yeah.
Right, yeah.
And if I like have a high level of Korean, like I have more chance to go to like high university. That's why nowadays a lot of like Korean students, even they go to Korean schools, they not able to like pass SAT, and they're easily entered to high universities.
I was curious how hard it is for you was to enter your current university, because for us, like foreigners, actually, I suppose it's 10 times easier. Like Hanang University, as I know, is kind of prestigious one.
It's a good university.
And I asked some people that had to pass Sunan to enter. They would say like, oh, only 1% or something would enter the uni and stuff. So I was curious about your experience of entering.
Yeah, but first, like if I entered your school, I would be like so happy, and I would inform all of my friends about that. I would brag it. It's a flex. And,
But so women's university.
yeah, it's good. I love my school. Yeah, it's good. For me, I didn't quite enter by the SAT grades. There are like another type of thing in Korea. We call it sushi and sunung, which is like the administration version, which is like closer to like American entrance system of the university. And the SAT one is like more well-known version. But I took the like administration version, which includes about like the general high school grades, like how diligent you are in the like past 3 years. And I had to take the interview with the professors before entering this school. Yeah, there were like 2 steps of that, and there are like so many types of sushi, which is like the administration system. There are like writing exam, which is like super populated exam, and there are like self-recommendation system, which you have to write something about you, which you did in high school, which sounds more like a job interview.
Oh.
Yeah, and there are
Did you actually take the Sunung test, or you
Yeah,
just
I took one.
You took it?
Yeah, but I wasn't very serious about SAT.
What's it like studying with different people at university? Because I mean, you study with like foreigners, people
Yeah.
that look like me, and Japanese and Chinese, but then also we get like ethnic Koreans and Koryo. So what's it like studying at Korean university Yunseo with foreigners?
Like before coming to university, I didn't have a chance to quite speak to foreign people and like from different cultures. Like all the differences we had were like from another cities of Korea. Yeah, that's
Yeah.
the only difference you can face in Korea. But after coming to university and taking like various classes, whereas like many international students, you can learn more about culture and you can more like know more about more perspectives and more the current states of the world. Yeah, and they have like totally different perspectives on everything than I expected. And the interesting thing was that about last week I went to Seoul's like tourist place with my international friend who is like literally doesn't look anything like Korean.
Yeah.
She looks like totally Western people. And the worker talked to me in English. So I thought that, so like nationality is like so relative like this. Yeah, like in high school, you don't really expect some people to talk me in English because I look very Korean. But like when you're with like Western people, Western looking people, or you are speaking in English, they expect me to be like a whole different nationality. Yeah.
I have to tell one quick story that will make my wife angry. My wife gets really angry about this sometimes. When we're on the plane, Korean Air hostess or flight attendants will speak to her in English. And she gets really, because she's got quite darker skin. And I like that. I'm a big fan of like the dark skin, the complexion and things like this. But she gets like, no, I'm Korean, please speak to me in Korean. But they look at her and think she might be from somewhere else. And she gets really frustrated by that.
Yeah, actually, I have a kind of similar story, which is very fun and kind of embarrassing for me.
Yeah.
Well, actually, I went to immigration office with two of my Western friends who are fluent in Korean, while me not.
Yeah.
And every worker there would ask me in Korean something, and my Western friends would like have to like ask me or something.
Yeah.
And it's always embarrassing, kind of, because when you like realize that your still native language is not something that you're familiar with, it's kind of, I wouldn't like say embarrassing, but it's just something which gets you off. You'd be like, why is it still happening? When is gonna happen that I'm gonna be fully fluent? And throughout the time, I realized that maybe like no matter how much time's gonna pass, I'll never be fully fluent to speak just like 한국 사람들이. I'm just gonna be able to speak grammarly correctly, vocabulary and stuff, but there will never be this kind of chemistry between me and Korean people. That's also like the thing that I would say a lot of Koryo Saram people have to face with.
We never investigated Koryo Saram, Koryo In.
Uh,
We got into the Koryo part. Is there a difference between saying Koryo Saram, Koryo In?
I don't
Like
think
what
so.
comes up in the Korean news if you search it on Daum, or what comes up in the English language or the Korean language? Because you use both interchangeably.
Yeah.
So we just use both. There's no preference, or
I would say when we talk about Koryo Saram, Korean, we use both with the same meaning with our friends who are also Koryo Saram. So we don't really see the difference between them. Maybe in terms of official meaning, there are some differences, but in the real life, nobody really cares about. They just say both.
I think Korean, like poor Korean, they use more Korean. It's like more official, I think.
Oh.
Yeah, maybe because like it may not be the like exact example for this, but for me, 한국인, 한국 사람 both sound similar, but
Yeah.
like adding in like behind the word just feels more natural. So I think that we use more of a Korean instead of Koryo 사람.
In terms of Korean language, like, is there any difference still between Koryo and Koryo Saram in terms of definition? Not like they're relevant.
Not really.
Not really?
Yeah.
Just similar. Okay. I would say there is a lot of words. And you asked me about the words that Koryo Saram have, and has kind of north type of meaning, I would say.
So we had papi and muli earlier,
Yeah,
didn't we?
papi,
Yeah, papi
I
muli.
like that. And what was the dog soup one? Keja?
Kaja.
Kaja.
And I reminisced chagubya. Do you know? It's like a definition, a very unique word which stands for CIS Korean, who's like health Korean, health CIS.
Okay.
And sometimes like old generation of Koryo Saram would use it for not a bad meaning, not a fancy one. They would be like, oh, chagubya.
You've got Yonwa laughing at this. How does appearance work? Because I think appearance is a big thing in Korea. Like in Europe, you cannot tell a British person by looking at them. It's different there. We have a form of civic nationalism where your nationalism is determined by your passport, and you might look like all sorts of different things, and that's how I've grown up. Now here, there's this kind of more ethnic nationalism, and you have the ethnic Korean vision. So there is a tie to sort of blood or appearance or this kind of thing. Now, I use in my class, I use that Horace G. Underwood quote where him and his family had been in Korea since like 1884, established Yunseo University, be at the Korean War, armistice talks and translating, and really be embedded in the country, but still look like an American, still look like a white guy, right? And Horace G. Underwood says that no matter how ingrained I am, I can never cut off my nose. I will still look like this. Those are his words. Yonwa, how does appearance work into this? For you, like, what's your take? Do you?
I think I don't look like a pure Korean because they have like another vibe. I think they're more like cute, like little, something like this.
You're cute and little. I'm allowed to say that.
But I think I'm not. I'm like more Russian, more like cold, I think. And I can like notice that it's like pure Korean and it's ethnic Korean. It like you can see it and determine like it's your man, something like this.
I would say that Koreans have a style which is relevant to everyone. For example, they have specific type of clothes which everyone wears. While in Russia and CIS in general, there is more diversity in terms of what people wear in general. It can be a mix of everything. While still Korea is very structured, very stylish, I gotta say. Yeah. But I wouldn't say that there is that much diversity, and in terms of appearance in general, I would say that
your hair has calmed down since I've known you. Daniel's hair used to just be like, come on, it was like growing an afro or something like this.
I used to be punk. I would say naturally, we don't really have that much differences because still blood and this plays the most important role. But in terms of styling, clothing, you might really understand who's Koryo Saram and who's Hanguk Saram. And for example, when you entered, understood that you're probably Hanguk Saram. Yeah.
There's a vibe, isn't there?
For sure, vibe is the thing. Yeah.
Is it important, Yonwa? Is like appearance important? Do you feel it, or it's just like, no, it's just everybody looks different? Like, do you try to look Korean, or do people pick up on it, or you don't talk about it, or?
For a long time, I really tried to look like Korean, to look similar with them, because I understood that I have to like live here for a long time, and it's not always advantage to you if you look different, because sometimes people think that if you're different, you look a little bit strange. So I wanted to look like Korean, but I grew up like started to ask myself about self-identification and decided that I like the way I look and I don't want to change. And now I don't like put attention, like feel nunchi for it. So now I'm like how like I appear. I like it.
I was curious about how Korean people treat others in terms of clothing, appearance, because it's a very obviously deep topic overall. But still, I'm curious the way like 한국 사람들이 look in terms of the clothes and the importance of it.
Like for me, many of my friends just follow the trend, you know, like there are trend, but I think that nowadays like being unique is a trend. So they think that they are being unique, but in a like trending way, but like in a factory measured way. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And when I just appear up to the class looking fancy clothes, and
You
they
always look pretty fancy, by the way, Yunseo. Like some students come like with a hoodie and a hood up, especially at a women's university.
Yeah.
Like you're not meant to dress up sometimes. You're meant to just be like this, and some in pajama trousers or something. Because it's a women's university. It's very different from Hanyang, actually. Completely different vibe. But Yunseo just walks in like, bang, here we go.
Yeah, that's my go-to aesthetics, but being extra is my aesthetics. But sometimes my friend would ask me that, are you going out on a date or something like that kind of stuff?
That's great. That's
great. Like all of us just love the like gray or black kind of clothes, the normal thing, or like the formal clothes or like comfy clothes kind of thing. Yeah, we just go with the like most people going trends.
Can I ask you a question, Yunseo? Are you able to tell Koreans based on identity? Because I've seen people do this. Like if I speak to my wife about a guest that's coming on or something, she might say, show me a photo. She doesn't do this with a bad intention. Show me a photo, and she'll look at it and go, oh, it's Korean.
Really?
What's it like with appearance for you and sort of recognizing people? Or can you differentiate? I know it's all different. Can you differentiate between like Japanese and Koreans? And
kind of, yes. And as you mentioned, I think that it's about a vibe.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
Right.
And I heard that like the language you speak slightly changes your face structure, and that might be the reason why we recognize it. And I think that's a vibe. I cannot like literally speak about it. It's too like abstract.
I would say Koryo Saram who are into K culture in general, who are living here, they obviously, as they're like Korean culture, they try to follow the way Korean idols and stuff look like. They look more 한국 사람들이. But those who are just like my father, they obviously don't care.
I suddenly want to meet your father.
So I would say, yes, generally Korean culture gets globalized. It affects not only Koryo Saram people, but in general in terms of looking as idols and actors, doing perm, growing out hair and stuff. And that's why maybe you would mix up Koryo Saram also and 한국 사람들이. But overall, like I'm not that into K culture, and I don't really follow trends because I'm not just interested that much. That's why I don't really know about the trends itself, and I'm just choosing the clothes that kind of fits, and that's it.
I now get why you asked me if I like The Cure. It now makes sense to me. As I look at you, I'm like, yeah, the Robert Smith vibes are coming through. Have there been any Korean idols?
Oh, yeah. Do you know what I'm thinking about?
No.
There is a pure legend over there. His name is Victor Tsoi.
Okay. He's the ice...
You might heard
The
of him?
drummer?
Not the
Singer.
drummer, singer.
Oh, singer. Okay.
He was a singer of very popular avant-garde band of Soviet Union.
Okay.
And it's not like just him being popular, you know, at a specific time. Still, it's very relevant till this day. And when there were meetings in Russia against the war, people would go and listen to this song called Changes in Russian it sounds перемен. And it's like a very popular and a very cultural song, which was originally made by him, by Viktor Tsoi. And still, unfortunately, he died quite young. He was like maybe in his 30s. He died in a car accident, and there's still some shows that occur maybe once in 2 years, and the stadiums are huge, and they like present the visual of him, the 3D version, and the others players of the band just stand there, and the legacy of him is very huge over there. And
his name is Victor Choi.
yeah, and he is actually Chagubya. He's like, his mother is Russian and his father is Korean. But I would say I would consider him more as Russian, because in only few interviews he unfortunately has, he presents himself and you can feel him being more as a Soviet Union presenter. You know, this grunge, avant-garde, against the system, break the law, trying to get this Western cassettes, vinyl and stuff.
When did he make his song Changes? What are we talking about? Like 90s or 2000 or 80s or 70s? Any idea?
Early. It was Soviet Union period. Maybe it was like
okay.
80s. Yeah.
80s?
Yeah, and when he died in a car accident, the whole country was actually like giving a tribute towards him. And I just wanted to understand how big his figure is. And actually, a lot of Koryo Saram people are very proud of him being presenter of this diaspora. And besides of that, he has a lot of other songs. And even like me, I went to his museum, which was happening right to the Red Square during the last year. So still, as I said before, it's very relevant.
Yeah, wow. That's really interesting because we hear about sort of Korean Americans that do well or win Super Bowls or do the baseball, but we never hear the other. I think I was thinking of Victor Ahn as the ice.
Oh, yeah,
I was thinking of him. That's why that one, yeah.
But Victor Ahn is a little different. Yeah, I remember he's he's like Hanguk Saram who got a Russian citizenship, or he wasn't allowed to present Korean team. But as for other cases, like...
Was there a kid in Jiuhak? Jigumori Hakyonen that was there was like a tall chap. I didn't watch the whole series, but there was the zombie school drama. I thought there was I don't know if I'm really clutching at straws here, like an Uzbek or Kazakhstan or I'm not making this up.
I know him. He's like friend of my friend.
Okay, he's a handsome chap, isn't he? Like, go on.
Yeah, he is like.
What's his name? Can you remember?
His name maybe is Solomon.
Oh yeah. Oh okay, I got this.
You know
Yeah.
him?
Sweet Home, right? No, the K drama.
It might be Sweet Home instead of Do You Have?
Yeah.
He is from. I don't know him a lot, but he is from Kazakhstan, and maybe ethnic Korean or Chagopya.
I think he's half Korean.
What's this word that you use? Chaguk?
It's like half Korean.
Okay.
Yeah.
I don't know this
But
word.
in Russia, like in Soviet Union, it used in not good way always. Like,
Yeah, not always.
like foreigner, not Korean. So
Is it used in Korea as well, or is it a...
No, only in Korean society.
Okay.
Yeah. So it's very interesting that between Korean we have like we also have something like nationalism. So if you are not pure Korean, there is like distance.
So if you're not Koryoin, it's you're Korean and you're Koryoin.
Yeah.
And then there's different levels of it.
Yeah.
Yeah. What does it mean to be a Koryoin? Is that determined by...
If both of your parents are Korean, is okay.
Okay.
If one of them are Russian or Uzbekistan, it's like
It's like 50-50.
yeah.
Even not in my family particularly, but overall, a lot of friends of mine who are Koryo Saram, they say like, oh, my mom wants me to get married to Koryo Saram woman.
Yeah.
Not Hanguk
Right.
woman. Hanguk Saram.
Right.
Yeah. But I guess in like Korean families, they still have kind of the same thing, right? Like maybe not only one diaspora but Korean overall. And
Like they used to, but for me, my parents are very open to like
that's great.
various nationalities, and I think that most of my friends' parents are almost open to it. And as you said, like before, it was like very conservative of Koreans for like wishing to their husband or their wife to be like 100% Korean, so that they can make like 100% Korean family. But nowadays there are like more of a various forms of family. So yeah, I do see some of the families that are not 100% Korean.
Yeah, I guess it changed through the time, right?
It's really interesting to me that there's this idea that, you know, Korea is very conservative and 단일 민족 and one race, but these days it feels like the opposite. It feels like when I ask young people and when I see young Korean people interacting with foreigners, or, you know, with young Indonesian women with hijabs and headscarves and all of this, and but Koreans really open to it these days. In general, I'm generalizing across a large population, but it doesn't seem very closed and scared of foreigners. Or anything.
Yeah, and
Yeah, I can promise that. Sorry,
Oh.
Koreans love to like speak to another type of ethnic people because we've never experienced it. Or like in the past, the reason us being like very conservative to like outer people might be we didn't know much about another people other than like Korean people. But now that we see more of them being in media, or like we meet them in universities or society or their companies, now that we are not scared of them and we do know about them a little more than before, so we kind of love to be friends with them. We like to be company of them. Yeah, I think that the new generation is a little bit changing.
It's the contact hypothesis, guys. It's what I think I was teaching you in class. It's just like you can moralize at people and say you should like, but moralizing never works. It's just that spending time with people, interacting in the classroom, seeing them, and it just changes, I think, yeah.
And I would say generally, maybe even our generation is still very much more open-minded throughout the globalization in the entire world overall. And I would say maybe my consumption, and not consumption, but attitude towards 한국 사람들이 might be different from the perception of my parents.
Yeah.
Because still, I think the background is what is like the main part of this thing. And as I grew up in kind of different environment, for me there was no issues with getting adjusted to Korean mentality, even though it's different. It was hard in terms of the differences, but I have never felt like, oh, it's something which completely off to me. And that's why it might still taking some time for getting fully adjusted. But it's not really a bad experience. It's just different.
Yeah, I think we're living in a new world where the idea of sometimes being pure anything is kind of going away. Everybody's realizing with globalization and democratization, we have all of these different identities and people, and it's. I sometimes wonder that it might be a strength for my kids. You know, like
Sure.
it might not be, but they might grow up and to have a mixed identity. I'm not sure what the right words are, but it might prove not to be a hindrance. It might be, I don't know. But in the future, it might be an advantage that they have a sort of a dual identity.
I think so, because like us Koreans are like trying to learn more of a language for like our careers. And I feel a little difficulty learning English, for example, because I'm not the part of the culture. But like having a little part in the culture would make you feel more like easier to learn the language or the culture itself more. But yeah, I think that, for example, your kids might be like feeling less pressure about learning the language because it was their culture, not the subject, which was like my path.
All right.
Actually, it's great when you're having two nationalities in you. And maybe I'm kind of having the similar case, not in terms of nationalities, but in terms of two cultures. Because I was asking myself what culture I'm belonging to. And I just understood that there is no need to really ask yourself it, because the answer is simple. You're a mix of both. And when I understood that, at first I was thinking that it might not be that great. But then I understood that the bigger, the better, because your horizons are getting widespread, and it's actually more useful for you to be adjusted to any culture in the future.
Yeah. I feel a bit like that with Korean. I think sort of adopting Korean culture and being here for so long hasn't hindered me. My experience is a bit different from yours, but obviously it's really useful to learn many cultures and try to bring them into you, and just like music genres or anything. We haven't spoken about the areas of Korea. So before we started this recording, we were talking about like a Dongdaemun and the restaurants that have beer. I'm not sure if you might know this, Yunseo, but the beer sometimes doesn't have names on it. It's just like 1, 2, 3, 4, and that's in terms of alcohol percentage and things like that. So you're like, I'll have a number 3, please, mate. Yeonhwa, have you been down to can you tell us, like, do the Koryoins, do they have a place, a community?
Specific place?
I think Korean, like Koryoin, lives in a lot lives in Incheon, Ansan, and places of Gyeonggi province, because first Koryoin came there because there's very like cheap houses, and then like there were a lot of jobs. It was easy to get some job, and like they come here because their friends came there, and they made like a big community. And I can see like almost, I think 90% of Korean, they live in Ansan, and there is like their village also in Incheon, called Hanbak Maul. There is a lot of Korean like convenience stores, Koreans convenience stores, cafeterias, flower shops, and they do their business like doing nails for foreigners, or like haircuts, because they have very specific style. So they do their business and like develop their community in such areas.
And I would also say that there is a lot of Russian Korean churches, which is mostly filled by only Russian-speaking people. And like during the 2019, I visited at least maybe 10 Russian Korean churches. And as I remember, there was not a lot of people because maybe it was the only time when it was only opening. But I visited 2 of them last year, and it got much bigger. The community is huge. They got social media's improvements. They do everything to kind of make community even bigger. And as for cities, I would also say that there is Gwangju province, right? Gwangju? Yeah, there is also.
Gwangju?
I think Gwangju.
There's 2 Gwangjus. The Gwangju near Seoul or the Gwangju down?
Oh, Busan. Near, which is like traditional one, right?
Okay, yeah.
Yeah, and I've been there during 2019, and I also met like a lot of Korean people, a lot of Koryo Saram.
What do you call a Koryo Saram moksa, or a father, a priest in a church?
In Russian?
Yeah, well, I do, in your church, would it just
yeah, we use Russian language in churches also. I think just pastor.
Pastor?
Yeah, pastor.
Okay.
Pastor.
What's the vibe like in a Koryo Saram church? I mean, like the English churches are sometimes very kind of like quiet and dour. I mean, it's very different from like a gospel one or something like that.
As I remember, mostly it was Protestantism churches.
Yeah.
And it was very active. For example, when they were singing, they would also use dance move to praise the God and stuff. And you don't feel that much pressure because I'm coming from the also Protestantism family, but I'm Adventist. And this is a little bit different wave of it, because I gotta be kind of very, very quiet in the church. I gotta act very quietly, just sit, praise, pray, and that's it. But in Russian Korean churches that follow the Protestantism overall, the things that I noticed, like they're very actively doing that. Yeah.
I believe the church is really big in sort of the Korean American community as well.
Yeah.
That I'm not sure for diasporas or something like that, religions or organizations, they play a really big role. I remember watching that Netflix series Beef, and they feature sort of a Korean American church, and I saw so many articles come out from Korean Americans or people on social media going, yeah, 맞아, that was really big part of sort of a diaspora having that.
I think one of the reasons also why a lot of Russian Korean people go to churches, because this is the place where you can find people. And because when you come to the country, you know, like you don't know anyone, you probably don't know the languages. Unfortunately, the majority of Russian Koreans, they don't know Korean language. And that's the place where you can find a lot of friends, a little got people. And maybe it's also related that as there is language barrier, it comes with the problem of finding kind of status job. Mostly Russian Korean people have to like do manual labor. And obviously it's kind of hard physical and mental job. And that's why communicating, just talking to other people, obviously makes this issue 10 times easier. And churches just became one of these communities where you can relieve your stress during the weekends. And I'm not sure, but I went to like a huge church which is actually located in Seoul, and there was a lot of Russian Koreans, but it was more, I guess it still was a Korean church. But I guess throughout the time they tried to develop and mix communities, if I'm not wrong. So there can be like both communities that mixed, and they read Bible in English and in Korean for both. Yeah.
Yeah, man, that's fascinating. In this idea of Koreanness, I'm kind of jumping topic a little bit because I'm still thinking about Yeonhwa's video that we watched, right?
Yeah.
You in that video, Yeonhwa, you started talking about Uri and Han and Nunchi as like, this is what it means. That sometimes you might not have the appearance. You said you don't worry about appearance anymore. But I think in that video, if I remember, you said something like, but I feel Han and I feel Korean in my soul. You were using this kind of language, which was really interesting to me. I told you I was watching your video assignment one night, just sitting there watching students' assignments, and I had a glass of wine or port in my hand. I was drinking it, and I watched yours, and I was like, oh my God. You were getting really deep and existential in it, and I was like, I'm going to show my students this tomorrow, and I did. I showed you. So, can you maybe say something about this idea of? I think we're talking about Korean concepts. When you were doing this, you were sort of thinking about, do I have this Uri? Do I have this Nunchi? Can you say something about that, maybe?
In the past, I even didn't think about like concept of Uri or Han. I just did it because it was like very normal to me and very usual things to do. But like studying and knowing deeper about concept of Uri, Han, I recognize that maybe because of it, I do it. And it is like in blood, in heart, and in soul, and you can't like explain exactly what is it. And when like Koryo Saram May community find people to communicate, maybe it's about like this concept of Uri, and like they're returning to Korea and stay here. And maybe it's also because of Han, and also like preservation of values of our grandparents. It's also because of Han and like their patriotic and because of their love of their like homeland and place where they born.
Do you feel much 해국심? Do you feel much of the patriotism? Like you, 대한민국 fighting? I don't know.
Yes, I think I have, but I'm a little bit curious if I am from North Korea.
Yeah.
So in which part I should like feel it, but I think for me, Korea is like one, and I just used to love it. And
Can you say something about the North Korea part?
I think language is very similar, but saying about appearance also is more closer to North Korean.
How would you describe it? Is it just a vibe that it's hard to describe? I mean, I know there's these old expressions. What is it? Nam Nam Bukyo or something like this. Is that the correct one? Like Southern men and Northern
I don't know
girls.
this one.
I don't know if we're still allowed to say it, but I've heard that. What's the difference in your?
I think it's really unexplainable, like vibe.
Yeah.
Yeah, and also the fact that they know Russian well, I think it's made us closer to each other.
Yeah, maybe Soviet Union presence and relationships with that during that period affects it.
I never had the North Korean angle in my mind before. Like I was doing the reading, I was doing, I was talking to you, and it's only just now talking to you that it, it sort of popped up. Yunseo, did you see any of that when you were thinking about? Did anybody sort of mention North Korea in relation to Koryo Saram? Like, I know it's a very sensitive and things, but it's real, right? And I didn't think about it at all.
Yeah, the interesting part is that you guys like, in a way, think of North Korea and South Korea as a like linked one, right? But we kind of learn as a South Korean in elementary school, we learned that we are divided, but we have to be together, kind of stuff. Yeah, like we even have the child song for the wishing for unification kind of thing. But
Give us a taste of it.
What? I didn't know.
yeah, our wish is the unification kind of song.
한국어로 노래 한번.
In a mic.
Yeah. What does it sound like?
우리의 소원은 통일 kind of stuff.
Okay.
Yeah.
I hope
I
it's
didn't know
unification, something
Yeah,
like that.
yeah. It is. Yeah, like in elementary school, we learned unification in a very hopeful way and a wish to like have it as a goal. But nowadays in politics, I think that South Koreans do not see North Korean as a like real family. We used to be a family, but now we're in a like sensitive situation kind of stuff. Yeah.
When I show students sometimes pictures of Pyongyang or videos, like they will see the apartments. My South Korean students will see the photos of the apartments of Pyongyang, and they'll look at me and go, "What's that?" Because they expect it to be mud and cows and things like this. And then I show them the subway, and they kind of take another step, and it's very different. Your dad was there recently?
Not actually recently, but
Not
maybe
recently. Sorry. Yeah.
it was maybe like 15 years ago.
Yeah.
And I found out about it maybe the last year, and that was crazy because I just literally asked my father whether he has ever been to Korea, and he said, yeah, but not the right one. And yeah, he went there.
The left one.
He went there because of his work. He was responsible for some rail systems for the trains and stuff. And the things that he said was basically that he was treated very nicely. It was a very clean train with a lot of people, but as he entered, the workers did everything to find him a best place and stuff. And he spent there overall maybe 5 days. And he said that the hotel was great. He saw that something might be a little weird in terms of it felt like very structural. It felt like a box, and everything is like made to impress a visitor. But overall, it was fine. He said that as he was Korean, and by that time maybe relations were better between the countries, he didn't face any issues. But he would always say that he would feel kind of being spectated by others. Yeah, and thank God he came back nicely. Nothing happened to him. And yeah, I think that was crazy. When I found out about it, I was like, I don't believe you.
And on the way here, we were talking about people like Andrei Lankov, the scholar that studied at Kim Il-sung University and things like this.
Yeah, there is a lot of actually things on the social medias of Russian social media platforms going on about North Korea. Because due to political reasons and some sort of connections between Russia and North Korea, there is a lot of appeal of videos related to generally North Korean culture, the situation nowadays in the country. And yeah, I watched that video you mentioned, and it was very useful in terms of me understanding that maybe when you live in South Korea, you don't feel that danger overall, because people generally treat North Korea as something very, very different these days and something very dangerous in a certain way. But in South Korea, I really feel safe and just don't care about it that much.
Right.
Because even though if you think about it, it's very close. But at the same time, you realize that what kind of action needs to be done, so the situation is going to escalate. Like when you think about it, you realize that it's almost like impossible or something. Yeah.
I was at a conference with Raymond Pacheco, Pardo, and Victor Cha, and they were talking about these hundreds and hundreds of trains going across the Russian-North Korean border these days, and
that's
supporting various war efforts. But that aside, what I think about is that in the English or Korean speaking world, we have a very different interpretation of history than from the Russian speaking world. And we talk about going into social media bubbles and echo chambers in Korea, in South Korea, between left and right and men and women. But there's this whole other ecosphere of Korean studies and history and information and culture that will be going on in Russian, right? In these languages that we get to miss out on, and you guys get to see it though. Like you have the advantage here, I think.
Oh, also curious, like what is the current, mostly like Korean perception of North Korea? Like what's going on in the minds of Korean people?
Are you scared?
Actually, we don't really feel the threat from the North Korea, but like when there is a news about like bombs and atomic things, then we are like little bit aware of the war, but we don't really think of North Korea as like starting a war like right at the moment. We don't really feel it.
Yeah, I can see.
There's that wonderful video of a man. He's the bomb shelters in South Korea. There's like Starbucks and underground parks, and there's a man interviewing a woman, and a pigeon flies by, and the woman screams, and the man asks her, "Are you more scared of pigeons than North Korea?" She says, "Yes." God damn, yes. People are really scared of pigeons sometimes.
Is there a lot of bomb shelters here in Korea?
There are, but they are not really shelters. There is a sign that it is a shelter, but that does not have like water or supplies or food.
Oh, so it's not really
It's just an open place.
Yeah.
Oh.
It's just a car park. It's just a garage.
Yeah.
It's just that. Is there something that people get wrong about Koryo Saram? Is there like a misinterpretation? Is there something that people misunderstand or you wish that they knew more? Because like I'm only finding it out really from you guys as well. But is there something that we should know more about? Is there something that people get wrong when we talk or think about Koryo Sarams?
Honestly speaking, I have never faced any bad experience or threats from Korean people here. Mostly in case if we talk about old generation, they genuinely understand what Koryo Saram is. They know the reasons why we sometimes don't know Korean, we act differently. But as for young generation, I wish the news would make more focus on genuinely different diasporas of Korean people, because it actually plays a huge role in the Korean history during the last century. And I'm pretty sure there is a lot of information about Kyopo in the English, but there is not much about Koryo Saram in English. That's why it would be great, I guess, for Korean society to generally understand the information about the different diasporas, including us. But I don't really feel anything bad because of that. whenever I meet people who are genuinely curious about my diaspora, I just explain them kind of briefly my case, and they're like, "Oh, that's great, that's cool." And sometimes I even like feel great because they act kind of differently in a good way. So yeah, I guess that's great.
I think the main like issue is that they treat us Korean treat us like foreigners. So they even maybe they understand that we have like same homeland, historical homeland, but because of language, they treat us as foreigners. So I want them maybe to understand that we are Koreans too, but our like grandparents didn't want to go to Soviet Union. They just had to do it. So yeah, I think I wish how say Daniel, younger generation like understand and know more about different diasporas, not only Korean but like also
Overall.
Japanese Koreans or like something like that.
Do you think it will happen? Are you positive? I mean, do you walk into this confident or you're a bit pessimistic? What do you think, Hyunhwa? Or will there be change? And if there will be change, excuse me, does it come through social media or contact, or are you confident it will change? Or if so, how do we make this change?
I think it will change because Koreans diaspora here becomes like more larger and bigger, and social media are also like more progressive, and I noticed that more pure Koreans they recognize us, and they start to understand who we are. And also a lot of more and more Korean come here and like create families. Someone get married to Hangugin, and something like multicultural families appear a lot. So I think it will change a lot.
Yeah, and I saw some statistics during the last decade, like 10 years. The process of Koryo Saram people coming back to the Korea got much higher, and it increased like maybe 4 times. So there is a lot of Koryo Saram people in not only the Seoul state, but as you mentioned before, like mostly they appeal in Ansan, Incheon, and I wanted to say something about Dondaemun, which is a very unique district for Koryo Saram people here in Seoul. It's actually a place where you can find noreband with Russian songs, you can find Russian places.
We had Yunseo give us the unification song in Korean. Come on, Daniel.
Yeah.
Give it. What do you sing in a Russian norebang in Dongdaemun?
Oh.
Give us a line.
No, actually, like, it's something which, like, a place where you can find your hometown in Korea. It is a very unique places for us because for some period of time we can feel back at home, you know. And in addition to that, the Dondaemun includes a lot of cafes that presents not only Russian but mostly still Uzbekistan food. But as through the history, a lot of people from Uzbekistan familiar with Russian language. That's why we never face this issue when we go there speaking Russian. And the food is fantastic. I recommend generally everyone to get introduced to this. And also I want to say that on Itaewon Street there is a Russian cafe called Troika. And they have a good borscht. As for other meals, I'm not sure. So yeah.
What does troika mean? Is that 3 or is it?
Yeah. Troika is free.
Okay.
I don't really know why they chose this title.
And tell me about borscht.
Oh, borscht is a national Russian soup. Unfortunately, not Koryo Saram food. It consists of vegetables, and I'm not sure about the title of the main ingredient, which is also beets. I guess it's beets, and so the color of the soup is actually purple, light purple.
Oh wow!
And it's very tasty, and I noticed that a lot of foreigners, they're mostly familiar with borscht and pelmeni.
Okay.
Pelmeni is like mandu, the Russian version. Yeah. And as for Koryo Saramshik, I would say I see a lot of differences. And like in Russia, in our family, mostly we eat, as we said before, like pabimuri, different version of kimchi in terms of this, like
Kimchi tastes different. Also.
yeah.
What does it taste like?
It's like
Is it more fishy, more meaty, more spicy?
less spicy.
Less spicy.
Yeah, and it's like more chewy.
Yeah.
And
Yonhwa
because
really agrees with me. I think she's missing the food.
and we also have kuksu, but it's pronounced as kuksi, and it's actually reminds me more like a naengmyeon, not kuksu here. Yeah, and it's fantastic. I really miss it. Yeah, and what else?
Food is a really important thing, isn't it?
Yeah.
I mean,
Sure,
when I
for the
first came to
culture.
Korea,
Yeah.
it took me about, I don't know, 10 years to want Korean food when I was tired or hungover or something like this, you know. And now if I'm tired or hungover, give me some, it's not Korean, but jjajangmyeon or something like that, or bibimbap, and I'll eat it. But it took me a while to get adjusted. Food is such a big part of, I think, who we are as people, and if you can eat it. And that's probably why when you're in Korea, if you look like I do, it doesn't happen as much now. But Latin and Malia, back in the day, like ajumas would watch me eat food. They if we were ordering like dukumi or a soup or something like that, they would go, they would say it's spicy and something like that, and then when you would eat it, they would watch you put it into your mouth and go, "Wow, 잘 먹을 수 있군요." They would be really curious. Can you eat this? And I think food is a really big part of identity or being part of a culture. That if you can eat, that's why Koreans don't like it. That I don't eat rice.
Yeah, and
David, you have to eat more rice.
I would say, like, actually, Korean food is not that diversity in terms of ingredients.
We get into dangerous territory.
And as for restaurants here, in case if they're Europeans presented, mostly it's Italian food.
Yeah.
And at first,
Carbonara, they love their carbonara.
yeah, at first I was confused because they would mix in one restaurant a Korean food or Japanese with Italian food. So it's like pizza and chicken or something.
Yeah.
Because we're in Russia, we don't have that. We have one specific restaurant with one specific country menu. So this diversity, lack of diversity in Korea got me thinking, like, because at first I thought that it would be more in terms of the range of food, but actually I wouldn't say that.
Yeah, food is a really big, like giving you get pizza, but then you get a little bowl of pickles, and then you get a kimchi. And
For sure.
they do the. I think in once our finals are all over in January, we should meet up again, like us four, and we should go to a restaurant in Dongdaemun.
Oh yeah, for
right.
sure.
Yeah, and Yunseo, then we'll get the real
Yeah.
good treatment. You up for that? And then,
Yeah, there
that'd
is
be
a lot
quite
of-
nice. Yeah, because if me and Yunseo walked in there, we might get some nice service. But if we walk in with some Russian speakers or something.
Yeah, and I noticed that in those type of places, there is more appeal of Hanguk saram들이, and they just speak Korean. They like the Uzbekistan Russian food, and they just go there.
Yeah. What's really interesting when I've been in there, I'm not sure if he'll listen to this, but shout out to Stephen Epstein, who's just an amazing polyglot. What I like about going into those places is you might see, sounds weird, but other white people. They might be Russian or they might be, but then you have to speak to them in Korean. Because they don't speak English, and so you get this really weird situation where these two white guys speaking Korean to each other, because that's the only way to communicate.
Yeah, here exactly. That's it. No English.
Yeah. Have we missed anything? Like I feel like we've covered like most of the bases. I like the fact, Yonhwa, that you're positive about being accepted, but I also like that you want to be accepted almost. When you were saying it, you were like, God damn it, please recognize us. We are here. The population is like 70,000 Am I getting my numbers right? You did some research
approximately like 500 in the
500,000?
CIS countries.
Oh, in the CIS. Yeah.
As for people who live here these days, might be 70,000.
70,000?
Yeah, 80,000.
That's quite a lot, right?
Yeah, and it's getting bigger. That's the thing.
I think the interesting thing is that we always see this no, it's changing. I shouldn't generalize like this, but we sometimes associate multiculturalism and things like that with white people on television and things like that.
Yeah.
But it doesn't represent the actual demographics inside the country. There's a different thing.
And there is also a thing I wanted to say that maybe it's not only about Koryo Saram, but still a lot of people from different diasporas, they feel homesick. Because I would say that mostly people who are mature, and generally all people are mostly affected by the background and the early years, the environment they were born. So even myself, I had to struggle with some, not mental issues, but emotions of feeling homesick. And for example, during the last year, I was attending language school program, as I said. And during the Samgip, third level, I understood that by the end of it, I'm going to leave for at least like 1 month. Because I just felt that I need to kind of refresh.
Yeah.
Because Korea is great, everything is available, stable. But still you belong to some places that you were born in.
Yeah.
So yeah, I went to Russia for 1 or 2 months. It was very refreshing, and I came back to Korea with full of energy, and yeah, so it was a very good period.
What I is very well said, because what I think is most important is that we've been talking about like Koryoin as a group, as a whole community, as a monolith where everybody kind of thinks the same and speaks the same and eats the same. But just between you two, that's why it's so cool to have you both here. Whereas Daniel, you kind of feel this pull back to you can correct me if I'm wrong, but I watched your work
I agree,
and you were
agree.
like, no, I feel Russian and my home is there and that's the vibe. You respect both, but that's where, and then for you, Yunhua, you were like, it's here.
Yeah.
And so we use this word, but inside that label of Koryoin, there's all of these different moves and pushes and pulls, and it's not just one thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's what I was talking about actually. Like Koryo Saram people are still different. Some found their place here in Korea, some coming back to CIS countries because they realized that they're just too different, and no matter how much time gonna pass, it's not really gonna change situation in their mind, you know. So yeah, but as for us, I guess as we're young, for us it's still just.
You didn't look at me.
For us living here, I'm sorry. It's still just a good experience as we are young to see the world and being able to compare not only our home countries but also Korea.
Yeah.
You know, so that's why.
Yunseo, I completely agree. I'm probably the same age as your dad, I'm realizing.
Well,
You
my
said
dad
he's in
is
his 40s, right?
was born 76.
He's got a few years on me. Yeah. I've got some white in my beard though. Yunseo, this is a weird thing, but like, based on this, could you say something in Korean, like about the Koryoins? I mean, because we're speaking in English, right? But there might be some people out there, like Korean people, that don't speak English. So I'm just wondering, like, what would you say based on like what Yonhwa said, what Daniel said, like that Korean people might be able to hear, that Korean people might be able to listen? Is there any kind of conclusion or any thoughts that you've had based on this conversation? Anything that we need to say or?
While listening to you talking, I thought that Koreans are like not very appreciating you guys like enough. We are just ignorant on the like Koryo Saram community and Koryo Saram culture, like not as the Joseonjo culture. And the reason why we are like more acknowledging about Joseonjo is that just we see them in the real life.
Oh, yeah.
So for Koreans, I think that we think of like historical fact, not the social people when we hear the term Koryo Saram. So I think that for Koreans, we should try to know more about Koryo Saram, and we should keep in mind that they are all different. So like, do not think them as like, oh, they're from Russia, okay, oh, they're from like, oh, Korea, or what are they kind of stuff. We should like try to learn more about it and more appreciate about it.
You got me deep.
Yeah, I think also Koreans' behavior is important too, because some Koreans are like their behavior is not good here. So I think their behavior is important too, because sometimes I feel very like embarrassed in bad way because of them.
Yeah, there were sometimes in the news appeal the cases of criminal behavior of some Koryo Saram people, and I'm not really sure why it's happening that much, because considering the sizes of community and diaspora, the amount of cases is big, especially here in Korea, where the police system is very strict and very good. So yeah, actually that's the thing that shall be really changed in terms of the law system, I would suppose, because of the behavior of some presenters of diaspora. There are also like visa limitations and generally the rights of Koryo Saram people, and it generally makes people of other presenters of Koryo Saram diaspora just harder, you know. And maybe some laws shouldn't be introduced specifically towards Koryo Saram people, and it would be better for the system.
What kind of laws do you mean? Sorry. I do agree with you, by the way, that I think sometimes our perceptions is based on news or stories, and in the news we only generally see bad stuff.
Yeah, for sure.
And we only see labels. We don't see, for example, Yonhwa or Daniel. I think seeing people is so important, by the way. So our immediate thought is not to a group, but rather to an individual. And I really like that. You were mentioning about laws.
Yeah, I'm trying to think about it. Maybe it shall be related to specific cultures themselves, and considering the background of certain groups of people of Koryo Saram, because for example Russian Korean people and Uzbekistan Korean people who are all Koryo Saram, there are still kind of differences, you know, in terms of behavior. And I'm not sure, but I suppose for them the laws works just for all foreigners itself. And I just was thinking about maybe should be introduced a certain group of laws that can affect and be specificized on like our diaspora itself.
Yeah. I remember during the COVID-19 pandemic, they would have the numbers here in South Korea on the news. They would have the numbers of people infected, but then also the numbers of people affected from abroad. And there was all that there's that Uri, and then there's the Nam, and then there's the Tayin, the others. And I think it's been part of Korean culture for a long time, and that helped Korea get where it's got to. It will change maybe going forward. Any final like kind of words or anything that we've missed? I want to know, how do we say goodbye? You taught me this in Russian, didn't you? Just a minute ago in the elevator. No, what did you teach me?
I said "здравствуйте," which means "안녕하세요." As for "до свидания," you can say "oh." So "до свидания" means "안녕히 계세요." So it says, bye, have a good day, доброго дня. But mostly we say like "до свидания."
You said that really quietly. I tried to. Do.
Svi.
Da.
Ni.
Ya.
До свидания.
Or just пока.
Пока.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Yonhwa, before we say baka, any final idea?
Final idea. I think nowadays, like Korean society becomes larger. There are a lot of like association, youth organization of Korean, and it's very like important to develop a Korean community, but it's also important to like develop community between Korean and Hangugin too. So not only survive by
What about Wiggle Kids? Cool.
not only survive like being Korean, but also be part of Korean society. I think it's important too. And for Korean, be more open-minded. I wish they will become more friendlier to Hangugin, and like there will build great relationship together.
What lesson is beautifully said, by the way? What lessons have you learned in how in doing that? Because you've worked in car parks and coffee shops and things like this. I don't mean to say that disrespectfully. That's what you told us, right?
Yeah.
What lessons have you learned about sort of adapting to this society or getting on? Is there something that you think is important to remember, or is a good tactic, or?
I think it's very important to like change your mind and try to understand that it's okay to be different, and it's okay to have different values and views, and it's not bad. It's on the contrary like good to see diversity of it, and do not be negative in like and aggressive.
Just be a good person.
Yeah, I agree with that. I agree with that. Any final words, Yunseo, before we?
Maybe for Russian Koreans, we appreciate your representations in society, especially young people, because like we are the future of this world, you know. So like just be yourself and just be present in the society. We appreciate a lot, and us Koreans will try to understand and acknowledge more of your culture. And if you want, we would like to accept you, and if you want, we would appreciate that if you would accept our culture as yours. And for Koreans, I think that we should be like more aware about other cultures more than Korean, because we have like not many experiences, like I said in the first time. So yeah, just be open to any chances and try to meet many people and try to be a nice people of Korea, because we are the faces of Korea. Then foreigners would think of as Korea as a good country, which might be like good.
The whole
we
nation.
should try so.
I think incredibly well said. I think it takes courage and bravery to stand up and say who you are. Because when I asked you, like, should we do a podcast, you could have said, like, no, this is weird, or I don't want to do it, I'm a bit scared, what if I say the wrong thing, I don't want people to look at me. Genuinely, I think it takes courage to say, well, this is who I am, and I might get things wrong, or we might stumble over different things as we get to know each other, but I think that's really part of the getting to know people process. And you know, I sometimes might say the wrong thing as I deal with people from all different cultures and languages, ethnicities. Daniel just confirmed that I am old, and so even when I'm talking to young people, I might say words that are like kind of you're not allowed to say in your generation anymore, because these values change. But I think it requires the courage to actually speak rather than remain silent. And when you speak to people, you see the whites of their eyes. I was trying to express that to my Korean teacher. She was like, "Why are you talking about the whites of the eyes?" But I think it's important, not online, but like in person. Is really important. So I learned so much from you, and I'm looking forward to Dongdaemun.
Anytime, I'm ready.
Goodbye.
Goodbye. We can say poka. Once a free count, right?
Say it one more time. Boka.
Poka.
Boka.
Yeah.
Baka, no? Boko.
Poka.
Baka.
Poka.
Baka.
Baka.
Writing is boka, but
Okay.
saying baka.
Okay, I trust you.
하나, 둘, 셋.
Baka.
Alright. Nice. Wow. Let's do that thing. Let's go to. I've got to drive to Gangwon-do tonight, so otherwise I've got to take my nephew and just come back to Japan. Let's find the time after exams are finished, after Christmas, after New Year. Let's 4 of us